Dr. Eastman?
Thank you, Chairman Hirono, Senator Grassley, and other members of the committee. Thank you for inviting me to be here today. The issue for us is not what proper immigration policy ought to be. The issue is who, under our constitutional system, makes it. And I can't disagree with my colleague, Professor Schroeder Moore, on the OLC opinion. I found it both uncharacteristically weak and even self-contradictory in its analysis. There are three basic steps in the President's recent actions here that need to be addressed. Only one of the three is even a close call, in my view, and that is, can the President use his discretion, which everybody concedes he has, not to prosecute every single instance of violations of our law, that traditional prosecutorial discretion? Can he use it on a categorical basis to effectively rewrite the law, which I believe he has done with these actions? The Supreme Court has never addressed that question directly as a holding, but has intimated on several different occasions that such a categorical use of prosecutorial discretion would be a violation of the President's take care that the laws be faithfully executed obligation. Prosecutorial discretion cannot be stretched so far as to give a categorical exemption or suspension of the law. But even if you assume that this broad categorical use of prosecutorial discretion can be permissible, there are two other steps that the Secretaries of Homeland Security, both Secretary Napolitano and the DACA program and the current program announced by Secretary Johnson on November 20th. They first take those decisions not to prosecute, not to institute removal proceedings, and not to deport as creating somehow a lawful presence in the United States, while simultaneously speaking out of the other side of their mouth that this does not convey a lawful status. Now, lawful presence and lawful status is a bit too Orwellian of a fine distinction for most of us, and I think it is here as well. The fact that you use prosecutorial discretion not to prosecute an instance of violation of the law does not mean that you have the lawful authority to continue to violate that law. Think of the comparison here. A group of protesters occupies a military base in violation of trespass laws. And through the use of prosecutorial discretion, the base commander says, I'm not going to prosecute or forcibly remove them. That doesn't give them a right to be lawfully present in continuing bases on that military base. And yet Secretary Johnson's claim and the President's own statement on November 20th have repeated to use phrase like lawful presence and make you right with the law. That exceeds the scope of prosecutorial discretion under any definition of that. And then the third piece of this is whether the President then has the authority to take the next step, not just treat them as lawfully present in the United States, but to give them a lawful status, a lawful work authorization, Social Security cards, driver's licenses, and all of the benefits that flow from that, which Secretary Napolitano announced in June of 2012 that she was going to do, and Secretary Johnson has now confirmed that as well. That notion that they can take that decision not to prosecute or not to remove and deport individuals who are here unlawfully and convert that into a lawful presence that gives entitlement to work authorization is beyond anything that this Congress has authorized in the statutes. There are 4 words in one provision of the statute that the Office of Legal Counsel has relied on to find statutory authority for this. It says that it's illegal to hire somebody who is unauthorized alien in the United States, defined as anybody who does not have lawful permanent residence or find an exemption under this chapter or given a waiver by the Attorney General. By the Attorney General. Those 4 words, they treat as essentially giving unfettered discretion to the Attorney General to issue work authorizations whenever he or she sees fit. The notion that that 4 words implies a delegation of such unfettered authority from this Congress, when, as we know, every single exemption from the law that has been pushed through this Congress over the last 3 decades has been minutely detailed on what the criteria are. The notion that all of that is meaningless, that the President through his Attorney General can just issue work authorizations whenever he or she wants is beyond the pale of what those words can hold. More significantly, if in fact that's what those words hold, then I think there is a complete unfettered and unlawful delegation of this body's lawmaking power to the President. Article 1, Section 1 of the Constitution is very clear. The lawmaking power that we the people delegated to the federal government is vested in this body, in the Congress of the United States, not in the executive. The Supreme Court has routinely allowed you to delegate regulatory fill-in-the-blank authority. But every time it is recognized that, it is said you have to convey an intelligible principle by which the exercise of that rulemaking authority discretion is exercised. If this four words creates the unfettered discretion that the President and his Office of Legal Counsel claimed, there is no intelligible principle whatsoever, no channeling of the discretion on the executive. You have handed over, without any restrictions whatsoever, complete unfettered discretion to the President. That violates the non-delegation doctrine and a core provision of the Constitution of the United States. Thank you, Madam Senator.
Thank you, Dr. Eastman.